6 News live at 10. Nebraska Medicine and UNMC are taking major steps towards reversing the effects and severity of Alzheimer's.
A goal researchers and scientists have been pursuing for decades. Tonight, our Marlo Lundak has more from the man and the team who say they're one step closer to a potential cure.
So why Alzheimer's disease? Because Alzheimer's disease is not simply a disease that affects a single person. It affects a family, and it affects a community.
Dr. Howard Gendelman has dedicated more than 2 decades to neurodegenerative research, namely Alzheimer's. The research started with a simple thought. When you scrape your elbow, your immune system responds. There's redness, swelling, and some pain, but then your body starts to make repairs to the affected area.
Why can't we take this simple repair mechanism that is operative on a day-to-day basis in millions and trillions of people and look at ways that we can harness that to repair the brain in the face of neurodegenerative disease?
So that's what Gendelman and his team started working towards. But there were 2 major obstacles. The first, identifying the cells that are involved in repairing injuries, like that scraped elbow. After identifying the cells, the next obstacle was figuring out how to get them to respond specifically to the brain. The answer? Genetic engineering. Simply put, they're training the cells to learn a new function, like teaching a dog a new trick.
We were able to change the repertoire of these immunological cells to gain entry into the brain, to react to the cause of this disease, and to repair the damage that has occurred, very similar to what we would see in a cut or a scrape or a splinter.
The cellular therapy was tested on mice with the disease, and Gendelman's team reported that those mice saw improvements in learning and memory, marking a major advancement when it comes to combating Alzheimer's. The next step will be testing in humans. Gendelman and his team are confident that this development will one day save lives.
Our biggest reflection of why we do what we do is to say that we've made a difference. We made this world better than it was before we were here and before we were involved.
Gendelman and his team say there are lots of approvals and regulations to be met before they can start testing this new cellular therapy in humans. He says they're working as quickly as possible to make it happen, and they hope to begin that human testing in 2 to 3 years. On your side in the newsroom, Marlo Lundak, 6 News.
All right, Marlo.